welcome to Let's Play Gran Turismo 3, episode 79. And more officially, it is now time for us to get through our fourth International A-License Championship event, which is the Professional GT World Championship. And I believe, as far as I know, this is also the final championship event under the International A-License requirement. I think I worded that correctly. And I think I've decided on which car I'm going to use. So, I'm going to use a car that I've not driven yet. And I think the car I'm going to go for is... There it is. The car I'm going to drive for the World Championship is officially going to be the FTO. And I'm also going to get some tuning because, well, this is the professional league and tuning obviously is compulsory. And, oh okay, we can get a total of 70 horsepower if I buy the Stage 3 Turbo. And can I get engine upgrades? No, I cannot. So I guess the Stage 3 Turbo is my only option on power, so yeah, let's get this thing and just purchase it just in case, because I would imagine we're going to be going up against some pretty heavy hitters. And I'm going to put on the slick tyres because these races are only 10 laps long, but I will get the super slicks as well, just in case. And I'm also going to give this thing an oil change, just so that I've got a little bit more horsepower. You know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna give myself the Stage 4 Turbo as well, just in case. Considering I can upgrade this thing to 966 horsepower if I do that. I mean, I know I probably don't need it, but obviously I'm getting it just in case. And so, it is now time for the Professional Gran Turismo World Championship. So, 10 race championship as always. 35 grand if we can win each of these races, and the circuits we're going to are Grand Valley, Apricot Hill Reverse, Route 5 Reverse, Tri-Mountain, Deep Forest, Task Course, Route 11 Reverse, Tokyo, Monaco, and Grand Valley Reverse for the finale. Pretty sure I'll probably win the final two races. And yeah, let's go to the first round of the GT World Championship. And we've got a pretty interesting competition here, because we have a Paynos Esperante along with a Toyota GT1, a Nissan R390, a Mazda 787B, a GT40 and an FTO. And because I figured this is going to be compulsory, since we are racing at Grand Valley, I would imagine tyre wear is going to be pretty high, so I will need to put on the super slicks. And I'm also going to take off the driver aids because I don't need them. Downforce settings are all good, and yeah, let's head to race number 1 of 10 in the GT World Championship. And this thing can rev as high as 11,000 RPM. And already I'm off to a good start, as I anticipated I would be, and already I am up to 3rd position off the line, behind only the Toyota and the Mazda. The Toyota briefly takes the lead, as of which the Mazda now is going to end up charging back into contention. I've already got the R390 right up my ass, and even though this thing does have 4-wheel drive, it's still pretty difficult to control because of the weight this thing has. And already I'm now up into second position and getting a little nudge there from the Mazda, but already slotting my way up into the second position. And already manoeuvring up into first position, as of which I figured of course I would need to put on the super slicks for race 1, because Grand Valley does tend to tear down tyres quite a lot, even in the more recent games following GT1. And it's also because literally Grand Valley pretty much every 10 laps in GT2, when I was on the racing super slick tyres, it literally shredded through those tyres. And because I know very well that tyre degradation is very much still a thing for this circuit in GT3, I am pretty certain, to say the least, in saying that I will probably not be a contender for race 1, but obviously I'm still going to try my damnedest to see. Ah, damn it. I let go of the throttle. Fuck me. I just had to let go of the throttle on the exit. I guess my thumb just slipped. And having to respond, of course, to the Mazda for the nudge he gave me. Figured I had to return the favour. Even though by now I probably pissed him off, but doesn't matter too much because I'm back up into the second position. The Toyota at the moment appears to be in a league of his own, but I'm hopeful in saying that tyre degradation will play a part in deciding the outcome of this race, even though it probably won't. But officially, at the moment, I'm running in second, behind the Toyota GT1. I am running on the Super Slicks, don't forget, so tyre degradation will not be as much of a deluding issue as it may have been in the previous games, but I know very well that this is a good circuit. I know it is possible for me to win on the reverse circuit. It's also possible for me to see if I can compete against the prototypes. And both myself and the Mazda got loose there. I almost thought for sure the Nissan was going to attempt a manoeuvre for second position, but he stood his ground. He is still holding on to the fourth position at the moment. I am currently running in second, and I forgot to shift down into second for the hairpin, but at the moment at least I am still competing for the second position. I'm pretty sure, to say the least, in sympathising that I will probably not win the first race the way it's looking at the moment. The Toyota appears to be in a league of his own at the moment, although I am hoping I will manage to win at least half the races. The gap has now increased to 3.8 seconds, although it doesn't matter too much because through the corners, even though the Mazda is able to catch me down the straights, I'm able to extend my advantage as we head through the corners, because apparently I'm proving to be stronger in the corners than the Mazda is. And even though this thing is four-wheel drive, the weight is still shifting the balance quite a bit, and The Mazda got really aggressive there, because he literally bumped me just to give me some extra speed, so apparently I'm not going fast enough for him, and he has now paid the price for it, because he's officially fallen down to the 4th position as a result of pretty much soiling himself down the straight, as in like making the costly mistake of nudging me instead of getting past me, even though I did have to throw the block if I was going to keep a hold of 2nd position. I was very much entitled to defending hard. I am now closing in on the Toyota, it appears, so it seems as though tyre degradation is starting to play a part in this race if I'm closing in. It's taken us only 3 laps to realise that there are certain places on the track where I am faster than the Toyota, but in the areas where I'm not quite as fast as the Toyota, I'm still able to prove, of course, that at the very least my cornering speeds are able to help me stay clear of the prototypes, as which the Nissan R390 has now taken third position away from the Mazda, as we now get up to the halfway point, and the gap has now increased once again, probably because of these straights that I see before me, because in a straight line the Toyota is proving to very much be stronger, but in the corners I am proving to be equally as strong as the Toyota at the present time. And I have definitely closed up on this lap, because the gap is now down to 2.2 seconds. I guess that must be how much faster I am through the corners than the Toyota, which is probably the only explanation I can give into why exactly I'm already closing in. But of course, it appears as though at the moment I have now separated myself from both the R390 and the Nissan R390 up to this point in the race. So apparently there might be, my cornering speeds are proving to be too much for both the Nissan and the Mazda to compete with, as of which I'm now 2.4 seconds clear of the Nissan R390 as we head through the hairpin, and the Mazda has now managed to retake the 2nd position away from the Nissan, and we are already halfway through this race. The Toyota had to stop in for tyres, unfortunately, and it appears as though the prototypes are still behind me at the moment, as of which it is the Mazda 787B that leads the R390. In the prototypes class, or at least I think after the World Sports Car Championship they called it the FIA GT Global Championship for the prototypes, methinks. At least that was before they eventually rebranded it as the World Endurance Championship in, what was it, 2010? Yeah. I think it was 2010 when they relicensed it as the World Endurance Championship, and at the moment I can safely say that I will probably not hold on to first position for much longer, unless either the Mazda or the Nissan pit. The Mazda is now coming back again, so he must have really turned up the motor on that engine. That Felix Wankel rotary powered engine is now starting to make a resurgence, as which he is getting very close to me up to this point. I am pretty sure I will not hold on to the lead for much longer as it currently stands, and officially someone else has come into the pits in terms of who exactly is battling for 5th position, and it is the Aspirante that pits before the GT40 in their own dice for 4th position. And at the moment it still appears as though I am proving to be much stronger at the present time than the Mazda, so officially it probably does look as though I will still be competing for the lead as we now head through the chicane. The Mazda has quickly tracked me down, as 7 laps are now complete on this circuit. I'm not pushing too hard, I'm not going to defend from the Mazda this time. I know he's going to get past me down the straights, but again, I know he will be slower through the corners than I am, as which he gets a snap of oversteer to compensate for that. I did get a stronger exit, but obviously the Mazda has the more superior power, so I really don't see any point in defending from him if he's inevitably going to pull off the pass. It seemed inevitable up to this point that he was going to do something, and I think it's fair to say that regardless of what happens now, I am definitely secure for a top 3 spot in this race, because ultimately the Toyota, I would imagine with those tyres, is not going to last very long. And the Mazda has now proven why exactly he is that much quicker in terms of acceleration down the straights. I think I got a little snap of oversteer there, although it could have been understeer, and my theory has proven to be correct. The Mazda is proving to be that much more beneficial in terms of straight line speed. I really don't see any point in fighting him for the race lead, because he will inevitably extend his interval by the time we get down the front stretch. Also, the final corner is proving to be quite a bad corner, considering I cannot go through that corner flat out, and already, as I suspected, the Mazda is now 2 seconds clear of me, so I think it's pretty clear to say the Mazda is easily the fastest car in this race so far. But again, I figured since this was only the first race, I didn't think I was going to have too much of a shot of winning. I'm perfectly fine with 2nd position to start off the championship. Still a pretty reasonable start in my honest opinion. I really don't have any sympathy if I lose this race, because I know that this is only the first race of the championship. Even though I am able to close in through the corners, I'm not quite able to get enough acceleration to close in once we head down the straights, and the Mazda is clearly over-revving, it sounds like, as he heads through the corners. And ultimately, I have noticed this thing does have quite a high revving ratio because it can go up to a maximum of 11,000 RPMs. So this is a pretty high revving engine. As we now officially come up to starting our final lap here in Grand Valley. I think it's pretty clear to say the Mazda is now pretty much in a league of his own unless he makes a major mistake, because even though I'm able to become stronger through the corners, the Mazda is still proving why exactly... Ah, shit. I let go of the throttle again. As I was saying, even though I am able to catch up to the Mazda through the corners, I am pretty sure that his straight line speed is that much quicker than mine in terms of acceleration. Because even though I am able to stay close, it doesn't look like I'm going to be close. It doesn't look like I'm officially going to be close enough to make any manoeuvres for the lead. So, gap is now pretty much a second to the Mazda. And I'm trying not to spin up to this point because I could easily lose second place if I make a major mistake. And it doesn't look like I'm going to catch up to the Mazda after 10 laps of driving, and just going to do that through the final corner because I know I cannot take it flat out. The Mazda may win this round, but I will be back later on in the championship. Just wasn't quite able to beat the Mazda in the end because that's how much quicker he was than me. The Nissan R390 has finished in third, and let's now wait for the bottom two to finish, as the Toyota just crossed the line. Here they come. And there we are. So, I may have lost race 1 by 1.7 seconds, but again, still a pretty reasonable start to the championship considering I didn't have the turbo on for race 1. I could have gone a little bit harder if I really wanted to, but I opted not to. I chose to succumb to the second position since I knew the Mazda was going to be quicker than me through those closing stages. Pretty close race overall, but I think it's pretty much suffice to say that I will definitely need the turbo on if I am going to have any shot of winning most of these remaining races. So, started off the championship with a second place run, but again, it doesn't matter too much because I'm still pretty sure that there will be certain courses where I will have the advantage over these AI, and since we're going to Apricot Hill Reverse, I have now discovered I do need the turbo on if I'm going to have any shot of winning. And tyre wear is also pretty high here at Apricot Hill as well, so I think I'm going to leave the Super Slicks on for this race, and then after this race we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, let's head to race number 2. And this time I do have more horsepower than I did in the previous race, But dependent on knowing if it will be beneficial enough to help me win this race or not remains to be seen. As of which I'm already off to a stronger start than I was in race 1. And already the Mazda is falling back, or just conceding to the 4th position at the moment. And already managing to maneuver my way up into the 3rd position. And I'm still getting a lot of oversteer, even though it does say this thing is 4-wheel drive, but certainly doesn't feel too much like it, even though I didn't get any wheel spin off the start. And officially, the Toyota does now lead here at Apricot Hill Reverse. I figured it would be compulsory for me to put on the turbo for this race, possibly even the next one, just to be safe. And already the Nissan is proving his superiority down the straights. Even with a turbo one, I still cannot compete in terms of straight line speed, even though I do have stronger acceleration. And the Nissan gives me a little bit of a nudge. He also forced me to cut the second part of the chicane as a result of that nudge. I was not the one at fault for cutting the chicane, as of which I was just sticking to the racing line, and already tyre wear on my left side tyres is already proving to have effects on me, so it just goes to show that this course is quite similar to Grand Valley in terms of its tyre degradation. Even though tyre wear may not necessarily be as high as it was previously, I'm still having tyre troubles in terms of the degradation, and already the Toyota has now opened himself up to a 4-second interval, but as I would predict, the Toyota is almost certainly going to succumb to the tyre deflation that will probably affect him right before he makes his pit stop. And then once he does come into the pits, that is exactly the sort of manoeuvre I'm looking for to officially making a manoeuvre for the lead, as of which I'm falling back to the Toyota at the moment, but that's only because he's on grippier tyres, but he's also on the shorter lasting tyres in comparison to me. And even though I may be 4 seconds behind the Toyota at the present time, I still have no doubt in saying that by the time he has made a pit stop, I have pretty much no doubts in saying that he probably will make a pit stop before the end of this race, and then when he does, that will coherently be the manoeuvre that I need in order to eventually winning this race, as of which we are now almost 4 laps into this race, and the Mazda is still currently stuck behind the Nissan. He is not able to make a manoeuvre for second position as it stands at the moment. The Nissan is able to hold on to the third position at the present time, and I'm slowly closing in on the Toyota. As I suspected, the oversteer is still continuing to kick in, even though this thing is four-wheel drive. It can still tend to get loose pretty quickly, but ultimately I can now say the Toyota is starting to slow down in terms of his overall pace, because the gap is now down to 3.2 seconds, and I would imagine it's only a matter of time before I do manage to take the lead here at Apricot Hill Reverse. I had a feeling the prototypes would be strong here, so I decided to put the turbo on so that I would have a chance to compete for the lead. Already I am now up into the lead after just 5 laps. I lead by 2.7 seconds over the Nissan. The Mazda is running in third. And even though I was leading at Grand Valley, there was probably no way I could have officially held off the Mazda for top honours at the end of the race, because Grand Valley is more about speed rather than downforce, and ultimately that was proven to be the case when I eventually had to settle for second, as of which in some cases I did choose to settle for the second position. Ultimately, I can now say I am more than certainly a competitor for this race, because I've now pulled out a 3.5 second lead over the Nissan up to this point since I fitted the turbo. So the turbo is definitely proving to be helpful at the moment in a race where I knew these AI would have the advantage over me, but obviously I figured it was more than necessary for me to put on the turbo so that I could actually compete for the race lead, and here we are now. I'm continuing to gradually extend my lead as we are now approaching the end of the 7th lap here at Apricot Hill. I am pretty sure that since I have now extended myself to a 4-second lead, sure that by now I am more or less going to win this race unless I make a major mistake, as of which I did figure I would shift down into 4th gear so that I don't scrub off too much speed as a result of touching the gravel trap, as I now head under the Dunlop tyre bridge, and into the S section we go. I'm now pretty much more than clear enough of the Nissan to officially say that I probably will win race 2. My lead continues to extend pretty much sector after sector, as I am nearly 5 seconds clear of the Nissan after 8 laps, and it looks as though at the end of this lap I probably will be more than 5 seconds clear. And furthermore, I can also say that I will be closing in on my first back marker in this event, as of which it won't surprise me too much if I do manage to overlap at least 2 of these cars before the end of this race, as of which I can now say I am officially more than clear enough of the leaders to say that I will be more than a likely prospect to winning this race, as of which the GT40 just came into the pits, so that must be the Paynos that I'm coming up to overlap. Doesn't look as though the Paynos is going to get the GT40 this time, and no, it does not. And officially, I'm now pretty much 6.6 seconds clear, as of which it does look as though I will end up overlapping both of the American boys, as of which it is very much the Japanese boys that are overruling the competition here in the GT World Championship. The GT40 of course just came out of the pits, which is the main reason why I overlapped him, so it effectively means of course that I do not have to wait too long before everyone else finishes. I can now say that I am safely 8 seconds clear of the Nissan, and since I've now overlapped both the Paynos and the GT40 in this race, it is officially going to be victory in race number 2. And I'm going to leave the camera on this time, because it will not be long before everyone else finishes. Alright, and in the space of just 19 seconds, everyone has already finished. So I won by 8 3/4 seconds over the Nissan R390. The Mazda 787B, as a result of finishing 3rd in that race, has now been dropped down to 2nd. The Toyota GT1 looking more than likely to clinching 4th position in the championship, and the GT40 is now tied with the Paynos after only 2 races. There is a 2-point interval between myself and the Mazda. And since we are going to Route 5 for race 3, I would imagine I probably will be the benefitor from that event. Well, oh, what the hell, I'll save this one. Oh, yeah. I should probably also mention that I created another virtual memory card in case of this one ends up being stocked up before the end of this game. I did remember to create myself a second virtual memory card just in case, because I figured that would be necessary, and it's official. So 1 win to me and 1 win to the Mazda after only 2 races. and let's now head over to Route 5 Reverse for Race 3, where I would imagine I will probably have the advantage over these AI. And yeah, let's get to it. Well, you know what, I think I'll leave the Super Slicks on for the rest of the championship, because I have a feeling there will be lots of tyre degradation circuits as we go along. I know this wasn't initially my plan, but after seeing what issues could have escalated in those previous 2 races if I didn't have the super slick tyres on, I would imagine that I would have probably been the loser in that ordeal, and already, as a result of me leaving the turbo on, I am clearly proving to be more beneficial around this circuit than the AI, because I am already straight up into the lead. In this race, and straight away I'm already 4 seconds clear of the Mazda here in race 3, so I think it's pretty clear to say that on the circuits where I am more likely to have the advantage, I probably don't need the turbo on, and then for the circuits where these AI are quicker than me, I probably will need the turbo on, just so I can compete. So, one lap is already complete, and I can definitely prove that I definitely did not need the turbo on to prove that I can win this race, because that is literally how much quicker I am than the AI on the circuit apparently at the moment. And I am already 7.8 seconds clear of the Mazda 787B, so I think it's pretty clear to say I did not need the turbo one for this race. Even though I could have put on the slick tyres if I really wanted to, I chose not to, and already I am clearly becoming the benefiter of that strategy, because already I can now say I am pretty much 10 seconds clear of the prototypes. That just confirms it up there, so I think it's pretty clear to say that for this race in particular I did not need the turbo. Although following this race, this will probably build me up to a 6-point lead. Going into the 4th race. Even though these AI are still proving to be quicker than me down the straights, because apparently they have the advantage around that circuit end. Looks as though I moved the wall there just a little bit, although it doesn't matter to me too much because I'm pretty sure up to this point by now I have pretty much more than a clear enough lead to say that I am almost definitely going to win this race. So 4 laps are now complete, as of which these laps are really going by literally in a flash here at Route 5 reverse. I'm now 14.7 seconds clear of the Toyota it now looks like, but I'm pretty sure he will not hold on to that interval because he has to put in for tyres at some point, and if he doesn't then he might just hold on to second position, but judging by what I've seen down here, I wouldn't think of him to hold on to second position very long, because he usually does pit in at about the halfway point, and then when he does, that pretty much deciphers where he will finish in this race. Although at the moment, of course, he is managing to open himself up to a pretty healthy lead over the Mazda for second place at the moment. So we are now halfway through this race. I can pretty much say, at the moment, I'm just out on my own in the middle of a domination run. Route 5 reverse. Because that is how much quicker I am than his AI. So I think it's pretty clear to say that up to this point I have probably got no chance of losing. Because with the turbo, I'm basically just dominating this race at the moment. And I've now opened up to a 21-second lead over the Mazda. I mean, I know those are the sorts of margins you would usually tend to expect in Formula 1, but by God, that is just pure domination. Oh, fuck me. I still hit the wall. Anyways, 23 seconds is now the interval to the Mazda, who officially retakes second position. Although, the truth is, it's pretty much fine by me up to this point, because it just means that I will open myself up to a 6-point lead heading into race 4. Oversteer is still continuing to plague the handling as well as the balance of this car, even though I am using four-wheel drive. This car can still tend to snap a lot from what I can see here. And it's pretty much clear to say up to this point that I will probably not lose this race. Although I did keep the turbo on for this race just to be cautious, even though I did have a feeling I would have the advantage over these AI going into this race, because there will be certain courses where this AI will be much more faster than me, and there will be certain courses where I will be faster than these AI. And judging by what I can see here at the moment, I am pretty sure that up to this point I will definitely not lose this race, even though I still clip the outside wall. I mean, I would have expected myself to eventually dominate this race, but I honestly didn't think I was going to be dominating the race this much. Up to this point, after taking the lead on the first lap, I really did not think I was going to be dominating this much at Route 5 reverse. I think it looks as though this race will probably end up being the shortest, as I now begin the final lap here at Route 5 reverse. And I forgot to step on the brakes, and pretty much using the outside wall. As I could eventually see myself doing. I am trying to see if I can go for a PB. In this event. It's pretty clear to say up to this point I am definitely not going to lose this race. So, coming up to the line now, and I go much faster on that final lap than I did previously. Keep in mind, of course, I did accidentally use the wall, but obviously, there we go. So, I've dominated race number 3. And officially, we can now wait for everyone else to finish. Alright, so there we go. And in the end of that, I won by 42 seconds in the end of that race. So arguably, even if I didn't have the Turbo 1, I would have still dominated that event. So 2 wins to me, and still 1 win to the Mazda. Whilst the Nissan at the moment and the Toyota are both holding on to 3rd and 4th positions respectively, and the GT40 has now managed to spring himself ahead of the Paynos after 3 races. as of which I've won 2 out of the first 3 races, and officially it basically means more money for me. And let's now move onwards to race number 4, which is taking place at Trial Mountain. And will I need the turbo on? Nah, I don't think I need it on. Let's give it a go. We'll see what happens. Nah, I'll leave the super slicks on for this race. Anyways, here we go for race number 4 in the Professional GT World Championship. And since I would imagine there are a lot of corners around this circuit, I would think, of course, this probably will be where I get the overall advantage, because we have a lot of low-speed corners here at Trial Mountain. Hopefully this will be where I manage to get the advantage, even though I will not be as beneficial down the backstretch in comparison to these AI. And the Mazda gives me a little bit of a nudge there for good measure. I do manage to defend my second position from him as we head through the hairpin. And I figured, since Trial Mountain was probably going to be one of my circuits, I figured it was probably best if I take off the turbo just to give myself a little bit more of a challenge. By God, I have definitely given myself just that, as the Toyota already emerges with a 3-second lead after just 1 lap. But it's fine, because I am pretty sure that he will definitely have to pit before the end of this race, as the R390 now takes over the second position. The Toyota has pretty much opened himself up to a pretty comfortable lead at the moment, although I'm certain that before the end of this race he will need to pit, and the Nissan literally gave me a bump and run there through the hairpin. Pretty much suffice to say, I might as well return the favour, just to prove, of course, that I too can fight to hold on to my positions. And, oh fuck me. Okay, I fucked up massively. And I just lost second position. So I think I probably shouldn't have taken off the turbo. But yeah, I fucked up massively as I went through that chicane. It was pretty clear that I wasn't going to make the corner. You know, I have noticed this car does tend to drag a lot through these corners, which is probably why I don't have the straight line speed advantage, but it's fine, because I may be able to make up for the mistake, I may not, but regardless of what happens next, I've definitely got to get the hammer down if I'm going to win this race, which at the moment seems unlikely, because I'm pretty sure that spin was pretty costly from what I can make out. and I am now catching up to both the Nissan and the Mazda, so apparently they're not extending by too much at the moment. Oh, fuck my ass. Okay, I don't think I'm going to recover from the mistake there. I fucked up entirely through there. I may have to commit an act of desperation if I'm going to get back up to speed. Some of you may call this cheating, but it's what I call an act of desperation, since I repeated the mistake I made on that lap. I deeply fucked up through there, so I really need to pull off a comeback manoeuvre if I'm going to get back in this one. And I am going to say it now, I may need to use the guardrail just to get myself back up in the fight. Some of you may call this cheating, I do admit that, but obviously, in order for me to recover from a mistake which I repeated twice, and also made another fucking mistake on that previous lap, obviously, I figured it was desperate action calling for desperate needs, and well, since this car tends to oversteer a lot, I had to cut the chicane just so I could keep myself in the fight. And I know I might be cheating at the moment, but the truth is, if you basically fuck yourself more than once, then obviously desperate actions call for desperate needs. Although it probably doesn't matter too much, because I do have a 6-point lead going into this race, and even if I do finish 4th in this race overall, I will still be in competition to compete for the race lead. I know this might be cheating, but obviously, if I pretty much make the same mistake more than once, then it's pretty synonymous to say at the very least that I need to commit something that will help me get back in the fight. Because if I don't do that, then well, I will probably lose this. So I set a much faster lap that time, because I went 2 seconds quicker on that lap as a result of me getting a much better exit out of that final chicane before the front stretch. And I can now say I've caught up to both the Nissan and the Mazda up to this point. Although it looks like the Toyota at the moment is proving to be quicker than all three of us at the present time, and 11 seconds now to the Toyota, so when he does come into the pits we probably will manage to overtake him, but it appears as though the Toyota could very well be closer to us this time than he was previously, but really having to use that outside wall there just to keep up with both the Mazda and the Nissan from that mistake I made. And we are definitely closing up to the Toyota, so at the moment the Toyota is not leading this by too much, although if he doesn't pit he could be more than likely to win this race from what I can make out. It would pretty much make it it would pretty much give us a third winner overall. To get a little aggressive there on the Mazda so that I could take the 3rd position. As of which, obviously, if you are fighting for a championship, it's inevitable that you are going to make contact with your rivals at some point during the season. As of which, that is exactly what the case is between the likes of Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen if you watch the 2021 British Grand Prix when the two rivals clashed at Stoke Corner. And this is more or less the same scenario, except I haven't caused the 787B to crash yet. And after 7 laps of competition, the Toyota does now come into the pits, as of which obviously his tyres were pretty much giving up after about 7 laps in this race. I am definitely closing up on the Nissan now, so this could be the manoeuvre I need to make for the lead. I have gone for the manoeuvre, I'm up into the first position finally, and all I need to do now is just stay on the defence from the Mazda, because this, like my battle with the Toyota Denso Sard Supra here at Trial Mountain in the All Japan GT Championship, could quite possibly be the closest battle for the championship overall. I could very well make this 3 out of the first 4 races in terms of wins, as of which the Nissan did try to pull off a manoeuvre by going around the outside of the hairpin. Obviously he did not have the traction he needed to get the manoeuvre done, and officially that could have effectively handed the race lead over to me, as long as I do not repeat the race mistakes that I made right before the halfway point. And made a similar mistake that time, but nowhere near as costly as the previous 2 were, as of which obviously this car does not like that chicane, which is basically the main reason why I had to cut it. Even though I would usually go through the chicane, obviously the FTO clearly does not like that chicane by how much weight it's carrying with the 4-wheel drive. It still tends to oversteer a lot from what I can make out, and this is literally a 3-way fight to the checkered flag. I really cannot afford to bottle this now. It appears as though the corners will probably be where I have the advantage. They say I really know how to trade their paint with me, because they literally don't give a shit about my existence, whether I'm alive or dead, like I've said before. And at the moment I'm in quite a tense battle. And apparent as it might be, my less beneficial acceleration is proving, of course, to be victimised to the crotches of these LMP1 cars. Though, up to this point I can now say I have more than a second advantage over both the Nissan and the Mazda. And officially, this is, as I've just noticed, the final lap. I really cannot afford to bottle this if I want to win this race. I definitely made some mistakes in this race, but I have managed to persevere with those mistakes. I've managed to come back and fight for the leader's position. I've had to come back quietly but aggressively. In this race, and it is officially going to be 3 out of 4 victories to for the Mitsubishi FTO over the Nissan R390 and the Mazda 787B. So there we go. In the end of all that, I won by just 2 seconds over the Nissan R390. The Toyota GT1 once again finished in 4th, but much closer than he was before, and now I am officially going to wait for both the GT40 and the Aspirante to finish this race. There we go. The muscle cars have now finished the race, and this will probably be the closest race for the entire championship, because I won that race by just 2 seconds over the Nissan. And when I say closest, I mean closest overall in terms of margins. But ultimately, it is official. I now have a 12-point advantage over the Mazda 787B. The Nissan R390 is officially still running in 3rd. The Toyota GT1 is still 4th. The GT40 is now 2 points clear of the Aspirante. After just 4 races in this championship, I now have a 12-point lead over the Mazda 787B. And I can confirm that is the truth. There is no lies about that. And where this time we are going to Deep Forest for race number 5. Yeah, let's just get this over with. So it is a good start for me here at Deep Forest. I'm already down the inside of the Toyota. He tried to shut the door on me, but I was not going to allow it as we were going through the hairpin. I do now move up into the first position already, so I think that's pretty much confirmed how this race will probably go, and where as long as I do not make too many mistakes during this race, I might be able to win it. As of which, as I discovered from my domination at Route 5 reverse earlier in this championship, ultimately it is pretty much safe enough for me to say I do not need the turbo in order for me to lead this race. So the FTO leads, the Toyota GT1 is once again up into 2nd position for the early stages, although it is inevitable that he will have to pit in for tyres. I can pretty much say up to this point I'm already starting to open up an interval. Tremendous stuff is already taking place here at Deep Forest. I am now 1 1/4 seconds clear of the Toyota, and it appears as though, regardless of how bumpy this circuit is, and even though this FTO may not like the bumpiness, the truth is, I still think there is more than just a possibility for me to win this race, as of which my cornering speeds are proving to be more beneficial than the AI's straight line speed, proving of course to be much more beneficial through pretty much half of this circuit. And the Toyota is now closing in. He is willing to make a bid for the lead, but it doesn't look like he's going to do it on this lap until we get down either the back stretch or the front stretch, methinks. And I am now a second clear of the Toyota GT1 as we head through the corners, but he's able to get the jump on me down the straights. Even if it doesn't look like a straight line, the Toyota is still right on my anus as we head down the back stretch. He is not willing to give an inch up to this point in the event, so he is proving to be quick. He tries to see if he can dive to the inside for the lead. I just managed to fend him off as we head through the final corner, got a little bit loose there on the corner exit, still managing to hold on to the lead narrowly. As we are now 3 laps into this race and almost got loose there with the back end, nearly slipping away, so I definitely had a twitch there as I went through the hairpin, proving how punchy even 4-wheel drive race cars can be. But yet, still managing to hold on to a narrow lead until the Toyota dives down the inside, and try to see if I can pull off the old switcheroo. We are literally side by side as we head down the back stretch. The Toyota has the advantage in terms of acceleration down the back stretch. Even gives me a little nudge there. Literally pulled off the bump and run, very much like the Nissan did at Trine 19 through the hairpin before I fucked up. But I did manage to eventually come back and win that race, even though I did have to cheat a bit to get myself back in contention for the race lead. And obviously, I am pretty sure that if there were stewards for these races, they would have probably disqualified me as a result of that. Although, since there aren't, it's pretty much all-out war, just basically doing whatever the hell it takes to win. I can pretty much say I am more than clear enough to sympathise that this race at the moment is far from over, even though by the time the Toyota does come into the pits, which I would imagine will be very soon up to this point, that is officially when I will basically manage to go out and dominate the rest of this race, methinks. So we're now halfway through this event. 5 laps are now complete as we head through the first tunnel. 1.5 seconds is now the interval to the Toyota GT1, who is now starting to fall back, I suspect with tyre trouble. So tyre troubles very much plaguing the Toyota GT1 up to this point. My black and yellow FTO looks as though it will once again emerge with perseverance. And it appears as though the displeasurable reviews from Trine Mountain will probably be obliterated by the time I'm through with this race, because it appears as though I will probably win this race fair and square, unlike the previous race where I literally had to cheat in order to get myself back up to the front. And even though I wouldn't do that after pulling off one mistake, if I know very well I do it 2 or 3 times, then obviously that's when I have to pull off something in order to keep myself in contention for a potential race win, and that's exactly what I did. Some of you may hate me for doing it, but others will probably understand what my feelings are for each of these races. And almost going quicker on that lap wasn't too far off my previous PB, and the interval is now extending over the Mazda once again, so I think it's pretty clear to say who will be first and second in this championship. Ultimately, I'm now 7 seconds clear of the Mazda, because that is how much quicker I am through these corners than this AI. Excuse me. So, 8 laps are going to be in the books this time around. Even though these AI are proving to be quicker than me down the straights, at least the prototypes are proving to be quicker than me down the straights. Ultimately, I'm still able to get the jump through the corners. As we now have just 2 laps left in this race. Made a little bit of contact there with the outside wall, but I still manage to hold on to a pretty sizable lead at the moment. I am managing to itemise this opportunity with the equipment I have. And it's pretty much suffice to say that as long as I do not make any major mistakes up to this point, I will probably win this race, judging by what I can truly make out up to this point. So 7.4 seconds is now the interval. I make a little bit of contact there with that outside wall, although it won't cost me too much because I didn't spin, and officially it is now time for the final lap here at Deep Forest. So, almost made a mistake there, but fortunately it was not a major mistake, and already I can now say I'm pretty much well clear of both the second and third placed cars, and it does look as though I might be able to overlap the Panos before we get to the end of this race. The Panos Aspirante is right in front of me, and it appears as though he will once again lose this fight to the GT40 in his duel for 5th position, as of which I dive down the inside. He doesn't attempt to force me off circuit. The GT40 is now in the pits, although it doesn't look like I'm going to overlap him, or I might just be able to. I have just overlapped the GT40, but he crossed the line before the Panos did. So officially, the Panos Aspirante does beat the GT40 in the end, as of which I did overlap both of them. And in the end, I won that race by 9 seconds over the Mazda 787B. The Nissan R390 GT1 finished in 3rd, and the Toyota was once again 4th. The Aspirante did manage to jump the GT40 as a result of that pit stop. And officially, we have quite a battle going on for 5th position up to this point. Meanwhile, I now have pretty much a 16-point lead over the Mazda 787B, who won race 1, but officially I won 4 out of the first 5 races. The Nissan is currently 3rd, followed by the Toyota GT1. The GT40 still holds on to 5th, and the Esperante, after 5 races, is still at the back by just a single point. So there is still plenty more to come in this championship, and yes, I do have a replay saved, and officially that will conclude part 1, and so next time we shall be doing part 2, as of which I forgot to mention this is going to be a 2-part championship, but yeah. So until part 2, stay tuned for more of Gran Turismo 3.